Hey guys, today I have a quick and easy tutorial on how to make a video utilizing PowerPoint. This video is for persons who don't have access to programs such as Filmora 9 or Final Cut Pro, and you need to make a quality video on a budget. During the video, I will be showing you how I build a presentation from the ground up utilizing many of the features that Microsoft PowerPoint has to offer. So, let's begin. Before we get into the presentation, I'm using Microsoft 365. I was able to convert previous presentations into videos using Office 2013 as well. I'm not sure if this can be done with any of the previous versions of Office prior to 2013. So if any one of you watching this video are using an older version of Microsoft Office and you were or weren't able to convert your presentation into a video, please let me know in the comments down below and I'll add the information to the description box. For the benefit of those watching that already have a presentation and you need to convert that into a video, I'm going to show you how we convert a presentation into a video right now. We start by clicking on the File tab, then Save As, choose a location, then in the drop-down tab, select either MP4 or WMV, give it a title, and then click Save. You'll see a loading bar at the bottom of the page showing you that it's saving, and it's as simple as that. Now you may realize though that in terms of timing, your newly created video may be off, meaning you may not have enough time in between slides. And that's my main reason for going through step by step how to create a presentation specifically for converting it into a video. I'm going to show you how we control the pace of the slides. I'm going to start with a blank presentation, and this way I'm able to be as creative as I want to. Earlier I got rid of the lower text box and then I centered the box I'm going to use. Now I'm going to edit the title. Today I'm going to do a presentation on how to make coffee using a percolator. Now that that's done, let's add some color and life to the slide. By clicking on the Insert tab, choosing the Picture option, selecting a source folder, and then selecting the image, the picture will then appear on the slide. Then we adjust the image to cover the entire slide. Now our image is covering our text, so we need to click on the Picture Format tab and select Send Backward. The text should now appear on top of the image, but the text, due to its color, is not that visible on the background we chose. So I'm going to change the color and add a shadow to it to fix that. Seeing that this is a presentation with instructions, we are going to create a new slide and edit the text box to say Step 1. Delete the other text box and then center the text box that we are using by dragging the box where we need it to be. Now I need to change the background color so that my presentation has one color scheme. I click on the Design tab, Format Background, choose a solid color fill, and then choose a color. In the title slide there was a lot of brown, so I'm going to use brown for my slide. My final step here is to again change the color of my text so it's more visible by doing the same thing I did in the previous slide. Change the color and then add a shadow. And now let's move on to slide number 3, where we actually define our first step. click on the new slide button to create a new slide. And what I'm going to do now is get this text box out of the way and only use the title text box. Because this is a presentation filled with instructions, images are important. So to show persons how to use a percolator, I'm actually going to insert a picture of my percolator. Please ignore the fact that it's a bit on the use side. I inserted the image of my percolator in the same way I inserted an image onto my slide before. I then adjusted the size of the picture and dragged it off to the side. I'm doing this because I want to have some text appearing on the right side of my image. You can place the image wherever you want and the text wherever you want, but this is just what I prefer to do. After I've placed the image, I once again change the background color of my slide in the same way I did before, and then I add some text to my remaining text box. This is going to be my first instruction. I edit the size of the text box so that the text is not covered by the picture, and then format the text. In this case, I'm centering it and changing the color. And now to make my instruction even clearer, I'm going to add an arrow. To do this, I click on the Insert tab again, but this time I click on Shapes and choose one of the arrows. I can now draw an arrow wherever I want. The arrow, however, is a bit too thin, so by clicking on the arrow and then clicking on the Format Shape tab, click on the Shape Outline box, scroll down to Weight, and add some weight to my arrow. You will now see that the arrow is thicker. Now I'm going to change the default color to a color that pops more, because I want my arrow to be more visible. And that's it for step 1. Now let's go on to step 2. We're going to create another slide, but this time instead of clicking on the new slide button, we are going to make a copy of slide number 2 and paste it under the slide number 3. In our paste options, we will select the middle option, and just like that, we have a new slide that says step 1. All we have to do now is change it to step 2, and then we move forward. Let's make another slide in order to define step number 2. We are going to go ahead and set up this slide in the same way we set up slide number 3. We change the background color to brown and get rid of the large text box. For this step, we are going to add the coffee to the percolator, so we need to add a filter and then the coffee. Again, we are going to use images to help illustrate. I insert an image just as I did before. This time it's an image of a coffee filter. We use the mouse to adjust the size of the image and then edit the text box and position it next to my image. Now I'm going to repeat these actions again to fill up the bottom half of the slide. Insert an image, adjust the image, and now I'll make a copy of the previous text box, paste it, drag it down to line up next to my new image, and then edit the text. Now if this video is moving a bit too fast, don't forget you can always pause the video in order to catch up to where I am. Once we're all caught up, let's move on to the next slide. We're done with step 2, so let's get on to step number 3. Again, we'll make a new slide in the same way we made slide number 4. And now let's define this step using another slide. For this slide, I'm actually going to be using content from a previous slide in order to make things a bit quicker. I'm making a copy of slide number 3 and then I'm going to paste it using the middle option again. In the last step, I'm turning the percolator on. So I'm using the previous image I had of the percolator and then editing this new slide to suit. I'm going to type out my instructions and create a few arrows in order to explain it. As soon as we're done here, it's on to the final step. Create a slide in the same way we did before, and let's move on to our final slide. After turning the percolator on, the only thing left to do is to have our coffee. For this slide, I'm deleting the larger text box and leaving behind the title text box. Now, instead of inserting an image, I'm going to insert a video. To do this, click on the Insert tab, choose Video, and look for a video on your PC. Find the video on your PC and click Insert. The video will now appear on the slide. Just like the title slide, what we just inserted is covering our text. So, just as we did in our first slide, we need to send the video to the back. Click on the Video Format tab to get this option. Once we're done, let's edit the text box and click on the play button on the video to make sure it's working properly. And now we've completed building our presentation. Now we need to make it video ready. This is where we're going to add transitions and animations to our presentation. Before we get to this section of the presentation, please feel free to take a break and go make some coffee. If you found this video to be helpful so far, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Now let's continue. Let's start from the top. In order to control the pace of the video, we need to edit our transition time. To do this, click on the Transitions tab. Over to the right, you'll see a few options. We're going to focus on the Advanced Slide options. We want to make sure the box that says After is checked. Next to this box, you will see a timer. This timer determines how long it will take for the slide to move on to the next. The timing of the transition depends on how long you want or need to spend on each slide. I'm choosing 10 seconds for the example. And now it's on to the next slide. For slide 2, we don't need to spend much time on it, so we'll just edit the transition time for about 2 seconds. And then we'll move on to slide number 3. In slide number 3, we are going to add some animations. We are going to animate our picture first. To do this, we click on the picture and then click on the Animations tab. Choose on any of the animation options. Next, let's change the length of the animation on the right. We will change it from half of a second to 1 second. You will see a drop-down box with the title Start. Change this option to After Previous. This will ensure that the animations play right after the previous animation. Now we'll do the same thing for the rest of the objects on our slide. The text box and then the arrow. Click on an object, click the Animations tab, choose an animation and change the timing. Finally, we need to edit the transition. Our slide transition time is going to have a minimum amount of time to transition. The minimum amount of time is based on the accumulative amount of time for all of the animations on the slide. In this case, we have 3 animations, each at 1 second each for a total of 3 seconds. So the minimum amount of time we are going to take before our slide moves on would be 3 seconds. For this slide, however, I'm going to let it transition after 6 seconds to give us enough time for all of our animations to play out. For slide number 4, just as in slide number 2, I'll set the time for 2 seconds and move on to slide number 5. We're going to go ahead and add animations to all of the objects in the order that we want them to appear, starting with the filter picture, the text to the right of it, the spoonful of coffee picture, and then the text to the right of that. For each of them, I'll set the animation time for 1 second, and I'll make sure that they start after the previous animation as well. Finally, to wrap this slide up, we have to edit the transition time. Our cumulative time for this slide would be 4 seconds, so I'm going to have it transition after 10 seconds. Now on to slide number 6, edit the transition time to 2 seconds again, and then on to slide 7. Again, let's add animations according to the order we want the objects to appear. Now before, we were changing the timing of each animation individually. Let's try adding them all together now. To do this, select all of the objects on the slide by clicking on the slide itself, hold the Control button on the keyboard and then press the A button on the keyboard. You will see all of the objects are now highlighted. We can now go into the Animations tab and change the timing and set them all to start after previous. Finally, let's change the transition time. Our base time for the slide, because we have 5 objects at 1 second each, will be 5 seconds. So I'm setting the transition time for 12 seconds to give me enough time for them all to play out. And now we go on to the next slide, where we will change the transition time to 2 seconds again, and then on to our final slide. First, let's animate our text box. I won't change the animation time this time. Finally, I'm going to click on the video and animate the video to play. And now we will change the start option to with previous instead of after previous. And in the playback tab, make sure the play full screen button is unchecked. Now in our transition tab, we need to take into consideration the length of the video. Considering it's about 11 seconds long and it's starting together with the text box, the minimum time for this slide to transition would be 11 seconds. So I'm going to change the transition time to be 20 seconds. Let's save our presentation, head back up to the top of the presentation, and let's add some music to our video. To do this, we click on the Insert tab, go over to the Audio button and click on Audio on my PC. Locate the audio file that you want to use and click Insert. Drag the music icon over to the bottom of the screen, and in the Playback tab, select Play in Background, Play across slides, and Hide during show. We are also going to increase the fade in and fade out times. You can also change the volume of the audio as well. Finally, hit the Save button and go over to the Slideshow tab and click on the From Beginning button and enjoy the show. Now for the final step, and that is to convert our presentation into a video. Click on File, Save As, choose a location, select the video format from the list, give it a name, and hit Save, and just wait for the video to complete saving, and that's it. So that's our tutorial. I hope the video was enjoyable. I hope you were able to follow along easily. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, drop a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Until next time.